I don't think I have a lot of super contrarian video game opinions. Besides like the Dark Souls thing, I don't think I really have that many takes when it comes to gaming that I'd seriously get like hate for, right? That there isn't like an established, well, like I can talk shit about Pokemon games and say that like Shin Megami Tensei are Pokemon if they were real video games. Like I can make a really inflammatory comment like that. And there's, well, there's a whole there's a whole army of people who don't even like Pokemon, so I'm relatively fine with saying something like that. I don't necessarily believe that. I just think it's the funniest, most inflammatory way to just phrase that. However, all of my opinion, I have a lot of opinions on other mediums that I think are wildly like out of whack, because I really do not give a fuck. I do not care. With games, I feel like I have some kind of a personal obligation to look at them a certain way. Other stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I can just talk shit about. I can say that like I don't like Pulp Fiction, or I unironically like the Fast and Furious movies, and I can be safe in the knowledge that I am never going to get. People are not going to be knocking down my door and sending pipe bombs to my house for that. It's fine. This has all been a very long prelude to me saying that I don't like Dandadan. Dandadan! It's the new anime. It's the anime of the season that everyone has been talking about. It is the most popular thing in this anime manga sphere. The animanga. That's the combination word. I was going to say manganime, but that does not sound nearly as good. The animanga sphere. It's been blowing up. You've probably seen fan art of it or a character from it or something. If you don't even know what I'm talking about, look it up. You might have seen one of the main characters. I don't know. I first heard about Dandadan because I went to a movie theater and they were screening the first 3 episodes before they actually started releasing on Netflix, which is like the international distributor for the show at the moment. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting that they're pre-screening 3 episodes of this yet unreleased anime. They're doing these early screenings. And then it came out and I heard a bunch of people going gaga for it. So I feel like it's been pretty well established that I don't watch anything unless my girlfriend puts it on. So Kat really wanted to watch it. So she put it on for us. Where do I start with Dandadan? So I guess I can talk about the things that I like about the show. We are up to, mind you, I believe it's a 12 episode season. We are up to episode 7. I'm not sure if a new one has been released yet. I think they come out on Thursdays. I'm not sure. But we've, as I'm saying this, I've watched up to episode 7. And that is the part with, I would say, the second big ghost encounter for anyone who's read the manga and I guess would know what I'm talking about. So this is from that perspective. Although I think that my opinion on the show, it's one of those where I'm like, I don't think the rest of the 5 episodes are really going to change how I feel about it. So I feel kind of comfortable. There was actually a point where I was going to hold off until I watched a few more. And now I feel like pretty confident. So the things that I like about the show, the premise is pretty fun. It's a fun premise. The visuals, it's very well animated. It's done by Science Saru, is the studio behind it, which is the same studio that did the Scott Pilgrim anime, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, which we also loved, and I loved the direction they had on that. What did they do? Is there anything else that I recognize? A lot of movies. Oh, did they do Devilman Crybaby? Okay, yeah. So a lot of like very visually interesting shows. Nothing else that I really know of. Yeah, that I can recognize. At least not by the Japanese names that my anime list insists on using for everything, which is really fun. Why don't they just, like, if it has an English name, just list it in English or whatever if it has a localized name and you're set to view the site in that language, the technology must exist. Anyway, so the animation is quite high quality. It's generally a pretty competent show, and for the most part, there's nothing offensively bad in it. And that's kind of... the fifth episode... Sorry, okay. The fifth episode is kind of charming. And the seventh episode, the most recent one when I'm watching it, at the time of me recording this, had a 2-minute scene in it that was pretty good. And the rest of the show I don't really like. So I guess I could start with the premise, which I guess ties in. So, how do I spent so much time thinking about this because I haven't seen like anyone else share my opinion at all, which is part of the maddening aspect of it. So I just keep kind of pacing around trying to think about it and going over the ideas over and over again in my head, which means that it's a little jumbled when I try to actually organize what I should start off talking about. I'll start with the first episode, which is... So it doesn't help the first episode is terrible. It is terrible. It has been a really long time since I have watched or experienced something that made me want to drop it so quickly. The last thing I can think about was when I played that like Roblox graphics style Battlefield type game called BattleBit Remastered. That's the game where I took 3 steps and I refunded it because I knew it was I could not play that shit. That's another contrarian opinion, huh? I guess that's a second one. Right. So, yeah. Okay. So here's the premise of the show. The show has 2 main characters. When it starts out, it's about this high school girl named Momo, who she's a bit down on her luck. She's just broken up with her kind of jerk of a boyfriend. And to kind of blow off some steam, she's like this kind of Gyaru type of Genki girl. One of her friends is like in full Ganguro makeup, which I thought was an interesting choice. I don't know if that's a thing, like there's a throwback trend in Japan to Ganguro makeup, but all right. So to blow off some steam, she basically goes and messes with the nerd boy at school who comes to be known as Okarun. And he is basically Dib from Invader Zim. He is obsessed with aliens. He doesn't really have any friends. They kind of pick on him. And he tries to just kind of ignore it and turn the other cheek. And he sits down and he reads his UFO conspiracy magazines. She basically like messes with him. And then afterwards she feels bad about it. And she goes to try to apologize. And she says, hey, if it makes you feel any better, I'm also kind of like, you know, you get kind of made fun of for being into aliens and all that. But I actually also believe in spirits and ghosts and stuff. And he goes, oh, well, that's bullshit. And she's like, what? And he's like, oh yes, ghosts are made up. That shit's not real. That's fake. And they get into an argument about this. I liked that. I thought that was a funny way to intro the characters. It's essentially what this results in is they both dare each other to go to a supernatural hotspot of the other's interest. So she sends him to this tunnel, this supposedly haunted tunnel, and he sends her to some like abandoned building that there was a UFO sighting recently at nearby. So surprise, surprise, guess what happens is he gets possessed by a spirit in the tunnel, and she gets abducted by aliens. And you're like, oh, okay, well, this is kind of fun. Well, when she's abducted by aliens, all of her clothes rip off. And I was like, oh, what? Huh? That was my first... Hang on, pause. Where is this going? And she's like strapped into a table, and these aliens are telling her that their species cannot breed with each other, and so they need to abduct members of other species so that they can use their giant metal spiked robot penises to rape them into fertility. And the show treats this like just kind of a zany, funny thing that's going on. And it's really fucking weird. It's really strange. There are like these leering, mind you, this is like a 16-year-old girl. There's like these leering shots of her crotch because she's in her underwear. And it is so bad. It's so bad. It's bad. It's not just the excuse me. It's not just the subject matter. It's the complete bizarre tonal clash. Like, all of this crazy stuff, like the ghost that's in Okarune's body goes to the UFO, and there's this crazy Sakuga action scene. And the whole time, I cannot get invested in what's happening, because the entire back half of the episode is escape from Diddy's castle. It is so weird to the point where, like, the show, it's this horrific situation that the show just, like, does not treat at all like what it is. And it felt to me like sloppy. It felt bad, as in the writer didn't understand what he was writing. And it lost a lot of faith in his ability to do like anything. I cannot believe it. Like, I'm trying to find the words to describe how bad this first episode is. I have never had the brakes slammed so hard on something that I was kind of getting interested in. Awful episode. Just, what the fuck? It's super weird. And then it apparently that's the only time that something like that happens in the show, which is like, okay, fine, sure. That's the only time that it happens. I would have dropped the show after that, genuinely. If it weren't for Kat forcing us onto the next one, I would have dropped the show after the first episode. Just because that was such like, oh, this is like, people will... What boggles my mind is that in discussion of the show, I have seen a decent amount of people saying, yeah, that stuff is bad, and it's really poorly handled, but just like, get through it. And that's the last time it happens. And you know what? Okay. I can at least respect that. what I find absolutely insane are the people who will go out of their way to like defend it with no joke, arguments like, guess you got filtered by the fan service. Huh, you can't handle some fan service? I should nail you to the wall with nails through your arms. You should be crucified. I'm going to chop off your dominant hand, and the rest of your life you're going to have to jerk off with your non-dominant hand to your fucking 16-year-old rape anime. Fucking fan service? I'm going to go off on a rant. I have to get this off of my chest. There is an incredible number of anime fans self-described anime fans who all they watch is anime. It's the only type of content that they watch, like visual content they watch besides, I don't know, video games. It's just the cultural output of one medium from one country. But because it's in a different language, they get to act like they're exotic and they have eclectic taste. You are no different. You're no different from someone who just sits around and only watches stuff from America or something. You are no better. You are no better than that. And you see how long-term, because here's the thing. A lot of anime that comes out in a season, 90% of anime that comes out in a season is fucking garbage. Just trash, right? But there is this weird, this is why I had to like stop engaging with the online anime community when I was in high school, because I was realizing as soon as I just started like intaking different stuff, I realized like how much people put themselves through complete garbage that isn't worth their time and shouldn't be rewarded because they have to keep up with the discussion. I have to keep up with the discussion. It is so weird to me. And I think the long-term effects of stunting your media diet like that result in these absolutely fucked up perspectives on like anything. Like it's like talking, maybe appropriate for this show. It's like talking to aliens who have like studied a bit of human culture, and you're just like, what? You're not a real person. How did you form this opinion? Oh, it's because all you watch is shonen anime and like isekai. Oh, sorry. You read books. You read isekai light novels. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were so eclectic. This isn't like an indictment of the show. It's just I had to get this off my chest. It makes talking about anything related to talking about anime sucks. I'm so glad I'm not an anime YouTuber. I'm so glad, because so many anime fans are just the dumbest fucking people you will ever be subjected to. Go try to read a discussion on Twitter about anime, and how many people on there are openly hostile to the idea of just interpreting things. It's crazy. Anyway, I can't believe that people actually defend that scene. It drives me up the wall. It was so distracting. I could not get invested in the action. I couldn't, or the whole rest of the episode or anything after that, because I was so distracted by the fact that the last 10 minutes of the episode are trying to prevent a 16-year-old girl from getting gang raped by aliens. It is so fucking weird. So putting that aside, okay, let's compartmentalize that and say that is an outlier. Don't let it color your perception of the rest of the show. Okay, you know what? I can do that. I intellectually, I can do that. We're going to take that and say that's a fluke. We're going to push that off to the side. You know, I mean, there's stuff that is weird sometimes in the early parts of, there's like a TV tropes page for it. It's called like early installment weirdness. You know? All right, fine. So ignoring how awful the first episode is, which again would have gotten me to just drop the show entirely. What's the rest of the show like? Up to episode 7. What are the following 6 episodes like? And the answer is that it is fine. It's fine. I have been, just by osmosis, because it's very difficult to avoid discussion, I've been getting a lot of people who are really hyped for the show. Now, I imagined that a lot of those people were people who had read the manga and, you know, knew ahead stuff that was going to happen, and were talking about, oh, it's so cool that this is finally getting adapted, because later on, you know, so stuff happens that's really good, or that's really interesting. And then I had a moment where I realized that actually, and maybe I should have realized this from the beginning, most people of these people are actually anime onlys, and they're commenting on the show that has been released. And I am confused. I'm not confused at why people like it. I can understand why people like it. But the level of hype I've seen is just, I don't get it. I feel like Principal Skinner in that one scene, that one meme where he goes, am I out of touch? No. It's the children who are wrong. That's what I feel like, but I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say. I guess I could start with the main problem that I have with the show is that I am ageist. Okay, so the core of Dandadan, people are so weird about this. Weird because of what I'm about to talk about. People keep talking about how weird the show is. It's so weird. Oh my God, it's so weird. And it's like, yeah, on a surface level, it's kind of off the wall. I'd call it zany. But really, the story is very simple. It's a very, very straightforward, simple story. There is nothing that... All of the strangeness is very surface level, which I think is actually part of why it's been so successful. It's that it has all of this kind of unique wrapping to it. But once you watch it, it's really easy to understand everything that's going on and what every character's motivation is and what the conflicts are. And the themes so far are very, I've been trying to pick up on them. I don't know. Maybe it'll be more apparent by the end of the first season. I haven't been able to really grasp at anything that interesting. At its core, Dandadan is a story about 2 high schoolers slowly falling in love. And I just really don't care. I just really don't care about either of them. I have to apologize to my girlfriend who is listening right now. But she is like making me watch a show, which, okay, we're at the point now where she has stopped asking me what I think after each episode, and we just don't talk about it because she knows. And I've kind of just been going, did you enjoy it? And she says, yeah. And I was like, good. It's like when you have bad sex and they're like, and the other person is like, did you enjoy that? And you're like, did you enjoy it? And they say, yeah. And you're like, and I enjoyed it. You know, that's all I want. Yeah, Dandadan, watching Dandadan is like having subpar sex. That's the title. That's the podcast title. Will that get age restricted? I think you can have sex in the title without getting age restricted. Yeah, Dandadan is like having pet sex. How do I do it every time? But yeah, I just really can't find myself interested in neither of the characters. I'm not really interested in who they are or the conflicts that they have, or I'm not really invested in. I don't really care very much for them individually or their personalities. And thus, I am really not that interested in their budding romance. There is okay, with this one exception. The 5th episode has, so the main meat and potatoes of the series is that it is a battle manga, which involves Momo, who has these psychic powers, and Okarun, who has these like powers he gets from being possessed by that spirit, and they are fighting the supernatural. Okay, again, fun premise. The 5th episode is after the first major arc is done, which, okay, I find it weird that when they did the pre-screenings in theaters, that they did the first 3 episodes when the actual first story arc is like 4 episodes. Like, I think if I watched this and only watched the first 3, I would be like, well, that's a cliff. It ends on like a not even like a cliffhanger, but it's like there's another episode left to go in the plot line. Like, I wouldn't be very satisfied. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that was all they had ready at the time. I've heard about anime production schedules. I've heard about them finishing episodes 12 hours before they air. What are they, a YouTuber? What are they, me? Saying right. So the 5th episode is just like a downtime episode meant to bridge the first and second real plot lines. And it's just kind of them at school, like, accidentally avoiding each other, and it's kind of cute. It's kind of charming. I think if the show was more of that to like build them up, maybe I would enjoy it. But the majority bulk of the show has been, I don't know, just stuff I don't care about that has not. I feel like we're well past the point where I should expect the show to try to sell me on the characters, and I should just not be watching it, unfortunately. Like, okay, I would have dropped the anime after literally any episode that's aired. Any of the first 7, I would have dropped it. But because apparently Momo and Okarun are literally us, according to my girlfriend, I must soldier on with her through this. And so, again, when I make complaints, know that part of this is just me venting because I have to watch a show I don't really like. And I need to get this off. I'm getting a lot of stuff off my chest. This is like a therapy session. Yeah, I just, nothing about the show really works for me. It's a pretty standard, simple plot story, at least. It's told in a very straightforward way, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that the specifics of it aren't very interesting to me. I don't care for the characters very much. The action scenes have been well directed, but without care. I don't really care about what's going on, so they feel kind of hollow to me. Oh, yeah. Here's like a big break moment where I kind of knew. In the 4th episode, there's a chase scene. And for this chase scene, hang on, what is the name of that song? It is the William Tell Overture. That's the da-da-da, 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 it's that song. but it's like a techno remix of the William Tell Overture. And the whole time, I was like, it's this crazy chase scene where they're like launching 100 feet into the air and flying around, and there's like zombies that start there's this giant crab. And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is supposed to be fun, and I'm not having fun. And a part of it is this music choice is so distracting. It is so weird, like in a bad way, where I just cannot stop thinking about what the fuck is this song? It's not what I would have picked. And I could just not, it's like this big, it is the climax of the first 4 episodes of like this arc that's been built up for 4 episodes. And I was just like, what? And it was clearly like this, I mean, I respect it. It was a brave choice. I didn't like it. And at that point, I think when there's something like that, where I say, this is the show flexing its boldness, and going out of its way to do something a little unusual, creatively, and I really do not jive with it. Maybe we just should go our separate ways. I don't even really like the opening. I just don't really like the song. At this point, I'm just being petty. Yeah, it's a show, and if people like it, I would get it. This is just a very me thing. When I said I'm ageist, I mean I just find it really hard to care about stories about teenagers. It's just that's what I mean. Like, I'm a bigot, and I don't think you can argue with that. Yeah, so I don't know if I have any other thoughts on it. It's a show that I don't really gel with on any level, that I don't really enjoy. Oh, I can talk about the one good thing. So, and I guess this is spoilers. There's the second real story arc is like this 2-episode thing with this character, this sort of new character. Her name is Iru. I don't really like her that much, and she is like being followed by this ghost, and she thinks that it's caused by Momo, I think I want to say. Momo or okay, one of them. And she like confronts them. All three, they all get attacked by the actual ghost, and there's a big fight scene, and then they have in the big climax, Iru dies. And they're like, oh, but you can get the ghost. Put the ghost back into, you could take the ghost essence or whatever and shove it into Iru's body with your psychic powers, and that'll revive her. And so while Momo's doing that, you get this view of this ghost backstory, and it's about a 2-minute sequence, and it was pretty compelling. It's told entirely, pretty much mostly just through visuals with some music over it. No like in-scene sound, no diegetic sound. And it just tells this pretty, I mean, not revolutionary, but pretty effective, tragic story about the backstory of this ghost character. And I was like, wow, that it's the most invested I have been in the show. And it ends, and it was pretty effective. And I thought, that was kind of interesting. I think I liked that. And then the scene went back to the main characters, and I was like, oh, right. these guys. There is this trend that I hope the show does not keep up, because I think it would really get on my nerves, where they did this with the first. Okay, so the first thing is like, okay, the first story arc is about the Turbo Granny, which is a real thing from Japanese folklore. Very funny. But it's like this ghost of an old woman who runs really fast. That's the thing, and she haunts tunnels or something. There's a whole arc in JoJo, the Highway Star arc from part 4 is based on this like folk legend or like urban legend. I'm not sure how old it is exactly. There's a whole arc, and when I realized it, I was like, oh, of course, yeah, huh. That's why it's in a tunnel and all that. So the whole thing is that when she possesses Okarun, she takes his dick and balls, which is like, again, it's like a 16-year-old, which I find that kind of weird as an adult. Again, just a little off. Again, like when the show is actually kind of weird, I just don't really like it. And then you find out at the end of this 4-episode storyline that the Turbo Granny what did she do? She was haunting that tunnel because it was the resting grounds of like a bunch of girls who had been assaulted and killed in the past. And she, I guess, had empathy for them and was like protecting the spirits in that tunnel. And so there's this kind of, I thinking they don't draw any attention to it, but there's kind of this implication that like, oh, she has like a vendetta against men, because assumedly men were the ones who did all that. So when Okarun shows up, she takes like his penis, right? So that's like, okay, I at least kind of understand the motivation for, okay, there's like something to this character. And by the way, this grandma character becomes a consistent cast member. She becomes a core cast member. She's trapped in a little cat statue. They haven't done anything with it since. I mean, it's only been a few episodes, so I don't know if that goes anywhere or if it means anything, but there's at least like somewhat of a connection, and also that kind of explains why she was attacked, why she suddenly like teleported. That's what happened. She teleports like through the phone in the first episode to where Momo is being captive in the Diddy mansion, Diddy's fortress. And that's why she's attacking the aliens, because they're rape aliens. So, okay, I get it. It's like a sort of interesting character motivation. They haven't done anything with it. And I was fine with that, because this is a consistent cast member. And then they have this other character, this red dress ghost, this lady in red ghost. And she has this really compelling, interesting backstory. That's like, damn, I really feel bad for this character. I'm interested in this. And then you cut back, and she is crumbling into dust, assumedly never to be seen again. So, like, I'm not a big fan of, we find out the character's backstory after they're essentially dead and gone. Like, the in retrospect emotional hit is kind of annoying to me. And if that's a consistent thing in the show, I think I would get very annoyed, because the ghost stuff, the ghost backstories so far have been the only kind of interesting thing about the show to me. So, at this point, I will probably be dragged through the rest of the season by my girlfriend. I'm assuming it's going to get renewed. That's kind of the model now, is shonen anime moves to They're doing like separate seasons. As opposed to just constantly running and blowing all of their budgets. I highly doubt that anything left in the show is going to change my opinion on it, which is why I felt like now I could talk about it, because it's been out for a little bit. It's been airing for a little while. Episode 5 was the one episode that gave me pause, and I said, okay, well, let me maybe the first arc is just kind of rough and boring. Let me see where maybe it improves and it gets a little more interesting to me. And then episode 6 and 7 happened, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm basically done. I don't know, like, when we finish it, I don't know if I will have any kind of a status update unless my opinion dramatically changes, which again, I doubt. Part of me belaboring this point is that I am also trying to jinx myself so that maybe it does get good eventually. And because I don't want to dislike things. Like, if something's popular, okay, my contrarianism is that if something's popular, I won't watch it. But it's not that I'll dislike it because it's popular. I just won't watch it. For some reason, something being popular, like, kills my interest. Kills my interest in it. But that rarely, if ever, reflects on my actual feelings towards the thing. So, yeah, I'm the Norman Rockwell painting of the guy standing up and saying, I do not care for Dandadan. I think it's a fairly mediocre show without a lot going on, and I really don't get the hype behind it. The level of hype behind it. I understand liking it. People are really into this, and I don't get it. It does nothing for me.